I'm Debra Wallace, licensed marriage and family therapist, and I'm doing my positive reframe today on time. This came to mind as it is spring forward, daylight savings. And as a marriage and family therapist, I've often had families come in feeling overwhelmed by the disruption that this time changes, and because it's out of our routine, we have biological clocks, we have rhythms and routines, and also time is a big like a barrier actually. Whenever I'm working with whoever it is, there's just not enough time. There's this message: there's not enough time in the day to get all the things done. And this is where I would often lead people to connect back to what they value, what they prioritize, because it's so essential that we are choosing intentionally where we're putting our time and energy, because it adds up significantly. And although it can feel like we have no time, the flip side is all we have is time. One of my favorite quotes is by a parent educator, Pam Leo, and is either we spend time meeting children's emotional needs by filling their cup with love, or we spend time dealing with the behaviors caused by the unmet needs. Either way, we spend time. And as I love working with the parent-child relationship, because that's where we can make the biggest influence in rewiring our nervous systems for love and trusting and security. And me as a therapist is like, I help people realize that all we have is time. Like, you get to, I guess, yes, we live in a system and a society that deems and tell us what we should be doing. But ultimately, we all have free will, and we all get to choose a way forward that aligns with us. And by no means am I going to gloss over the fact that there is systemic trauma and barriers for many individuals who don't have that choice. So I can do a whole other reframe on free will and choice and power and all that. But even with all that in place, I still think it's important that we do still have a choice of how we're going to choose to be in this moment. And I'm a person who values connection and authenticity. And so that's on my high list. So whenever I'm acting in ways that's outside of not being my authentic self, or feeling disconnected from my body or my mind, then I see that as an indicator to pause, breathe, and then think once, because you can't even access our smart files when we're in that state. But then I think, okay, what's going to help me be authentic? What's going to help me feel connected? And again, for everybody, that's different. What that's going to be. For me, it's often putting my hand on my heart. It's breathing, listening to my breath, reminding myself what's more important. As I have suffered quite a few losses, especially actually I did a positive reframe on accepting death, where I shared a little bit more of this story. But the loss of a baby, a stillborn, that really got me to realize that every moment is precious, extremely precious, and you never know when that last moment's going to be. And I will forever remember that last moment I felt my baby move inside of me, forever. And now I gave myself permission to process and sit with those feelings, that now that is a cue and a reminder of me that even when my mom recently passed away, I was able to anchor back, like, yeah, man, it was stressful. Got a lot of stressors going on. And yes, I was reacting at times, and I was overwhelmed by a lot of her demands and her own trauma history and reactions and symptoms and health issues. But ultimately, I always anchor back, and I don't know. I know my days with her are numbered. And so I'm going to choose how I'm going to be in this moment. And so when we feel like we don't have time, all we have is time. And it's just really important that like, it makes me so sad when I hear so many families coming in like, we got to get out the door. We got to go. What are you doing? And like, we're losing it as we get out the door, and we're saying things and we're behaving in ways that don't align with who we are because we have to get on the door. And then when I want to say, what is more important than how you show up, not only for yourself, but for your children, for the relationships in your life, for the people who are there for you day in and day out. Relationships, to me, relationships are essential. In fact, that's another thing as I work a lot with parenting is children spell love, L-O-V-E, time, T-I-M-E. They spell love, T-I-M-E, because it's that presence that matters more. And that's often what I tell parents. It's not that you're calm all the time. It's not that you're happy. It's not that you're giving them everything they want. It's your presence. And ideally, it's a regulated, warm, secure, nurturing, soothing presence. But it's you being present. Whereas if we're in fear, if we're like, oh my gosh, this is the end of the world. Oh, what's going to happen? We're not present. And that's just going to like create a cascade of negative thoughts, feelings, interactions. And so I know this consciousness, I'll talk a lot about conscious parenting. That consciousness really means more about being aware of how your past, how your fears, how your traits, things are affecting your health, your well-being, your relationships, and being aware of that within relatively quickly, not right away, but having awareness of that and bringing that forward. And then choosing responses that align with your values and what you want to promote and what skills you want to continue for yourself. And so, and anyone who comes to therapy, I often say, bare minimum, especially if you've had trauma, it's going to take childhood trauma, it's going to take 2 years. I say that off the bat because it takes time to work through and try new things. So please be patient with yourself and compassionate and loving as you're implementing new ways to, or new things like that, like with the time change, like, yes, the time change. Let's be compassionate but yes, it does disrupt the system, name it to tame it. It makes sense. Things are out of order. Yes, we do have to be at school. Sportscasting is a strategy I teach all parentings. And it's just like when you're watching a sport, you're just narrating what's happening. It's like, oh my gosh, I have 3 kids and you all have to be somewhere and I'm one person. And oh, this is a lot for my nervous system. Oh, I need a moment, saying that out loud, naming it to tame it. And to know this is not, I know it feels like an emergency, but that's another thing, is to remind yourself this is not an emergency. The world is not ending, although it may feel like that. But it's like we need to come in and anchor ourselves in some knowing that feels true. So match it to what feels true. But something that helps me is like, nothing is more important than my relationship with my child right now. Nothing is more important than my heart. I mean, I've had a bout of some high blood pressure recently, and so that really helps when you're like, okay, I want to live, so I don't want any negative. I need to connect to myself. I need to find some peace in ease. So that is my reframe on time. As everything is time, and whether you're going to put in the energy to deal with putting out the fires and all the consequences, or you can choose to put in the energy to connect to yourself, listen to your mind, body, spirit, nervous system, and create rituals in your life that align with your values, and giving yourself daily doses of things that help you feel safe, seen, soothed, and secure, and light, so that you can be your best self. Because at the end of the day, that's all we have. It's time, and tomorrow is not guaranteed. So I do encourage you to listen to more of my other positive reframe videos, and I'm also on YouTube. I've been doing on Tuesdays and Thursdays, pause and process, just to show how we can weave in moments to pause, so that we can listen and figure out what we do need. Okay? Thank you. Take wonderful care.